You don't even notice when it begins. A name, a voice, a moment. It plants itself quietly in you, and without knowing, you start to carry it. At first, it's light, beautiful even. A memory you revisit like a favorite song. A dream you hold like a soft thread wrapped around your heart. But over time, it grows heavier, and yet, you still hold on. Why? Because it mattered. Because it meant something. Because letting go feels like saying it didn't, and that feels like betrayal. No one really talks about how personal holding on can be. It's not just about another person or a place or a past version of you. It's about meaning, about identity. You hold on because it became part of who you are. Because it anchored you when the world was moving too fast. Because in a way, it helped you survive. Maybe it was someone you loved, or someone who broke you. Maybe it was a version of yourself that felt alive before things changed. Maybe it was a hope you had for a future that never came. You told yourself it would fade, but it didn't. Not with time, not with distance. You learned to smile while your heart stayed clenched around something it couldn't let go of. Some days you forget it's there. Other days it rushes back with the quiet force of a wave, a song, a scent, a sentence, and suddenly you're standing in the middle of a feeling you thought you'd outgrown. And here's the truth you rarely admit. You're afraid to let go. Not because it hurts, but because you don't know who you'll be without it. We build stories around our pain, around our love, around our past. We carry them like bags we refuse to drop because empty hands feel too unfamiliar. What if you let go and you don't recognize yourself anymore? What if you lose more than just the memory? What if you lose the meaning? So you keep holding, not because it feels good, but because it feels safe. But is it? Is it really safety or is it silence? Is it really comfort or is it numbness? You wake up tired, not from the day ahead, but from the weight of what you haven't released. You move through life dragging invisible anchors, wondering why joy feels distant, why peace seems quiet when it arrives, if it ever does. This isn't weakness. This is being human. You care deeply. You remember vividly. You love fully. But even love can become a chain if it keeps you trapped in what no longer breathes. And now you're here, standing on the edge of something you can't name. You haven't let go yet, but something inside you is starting to wonder. What if you did? Time doesn't ask. It doesn't wait. It just moves. You try to hold on to moments as they slip like water through your fingers. You clutch memories like photographs, hoping they'll stay vivid. But they fade. Not all at once, but slowly, like the light at the end of a long day. There's a quiet cruelty to time. It doesn't erase out of malice. It simply obeys its own rhythm. And the hardest part? It moves forward, even when you're not ready. You still remember the sound of their laughter, the way it filled the spaces in you. You still remember the smell of the air that day, the promises made in silence, the feeling of being whole, even if only for a moment. But those days live in a place you can no longer reach. And time, indifferent, relentless, has pulled you forward, even as your heart stays behind. You start to feel split in two. One part going through the motions, the other standing still, watching the past play on a loop. You try to freeze it, hold it still, rewind it. But time has no pause button. As the philosopher Heraclitus once said, no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it is not the same river, and he is not the same man. You are not who you were then, and that hurts more than you expected it to, because you loved who you were in that memory. Or maybe you loved who you thought you could be. And now you don't know how to carry on without that version of yourself, without them, without the life you imagined. But here's the hard truth. The past cannot be relived. It can only be remembered, and memory is a strange thing. It keeps the feeling alive long after the facts begin to fade. It edits, it romanticizes, it replays the best parts over and over. It becomes not just a place you visit, but a place you long to live in again, but you can't. Time moves like a river, and you're still standing in the current, resisting the flow. You want to hold on, not just to what was good, but to what you lost. Because grief, in its twisted way, keeps you connected. And maybe that's what scares you about letting go. The idea that it might mean forgetting, that it might mean saying it didn't matter. But that's not true. Letting go is not the same as forgetting. Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." No feeling is final. It comes, it breaks you open, and it passes. Even grief, even love, even regret. They don't disappear, but they transform. They settle into quieter places inside you, like old songs you don't play as often, but still remember the lyrics to. Time, for all its harshness, is also a healer. Not because it erases, but because it teaches you how to live with the echoes. It gives you distance, not to forget, but to breathe. And in that distance, something shifts. You begin to realize that holding on doesn't keep things alive. It keeps you stuck. And maybe what you need now isn't to return to what was, but to learn how to move with time instead of fighting it. Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." It's a hard truth, but a liberating one, because if you stop clinging, what remains is not loss. It's love without the weight, memory without the ache, growth without guilt. You start to notice things again, the way the wind feels on your face, the sound of your own breath, the space between thoughts. You start to see beauty, not just in what was, but in what is, even if it's quieter now. You begin to understand that the battle with time was never about winning. It was about learning to walk alongside it instead of against it, to accept that nothing stays, and yet nothing is truly gone. That every version of you, every moment you cherished, still lives within you, not to chain you down, but to guide you forward. Time didn't take them away from you. It simply asked you to grow, and you're allowed to. You're allowed to live again, not because you've forgotten, but because you've survived. Letting go doesn't mean letting the memory die. It means letting yourself live. The moment you let go. It doesn't happen all at once. There's no grand ceremony, no dramatic moment where you stand on a mountaintop and declare yourself free. No one claps. There is no music, just quiet. And in that quiet, something shifts. You stop resisting. There's a deep breath, not the kind that just fills your lungs, but the kind that touches the spaces inside you that haven't breathed in years. It expands into your chest, your ribs, your belly. You didn't even realize how tightly you'd been holding everything in until you finally let it go. It begins in the body. Your shoulders, once curled inward from the weight, begin to drop. Your jaw unclenches. Your stomach softens. The knot behind your eyes, the one you thought was just part of you, slowly unravels. You didn't notice how much tension you were carrying until it started to leave you. The body always remembers what the mind tries to bury. But now, the body is learning something new. It's learning to rest. Your breath becomes deeper, not rushed. Your heart stops racing. There's no need to brace yourself anymore. You realize nothing is chasing you. There is no danger here, just now, just you. Letting go is not an act of forgetting or of force. It's an opening. A loosening of the fists you made around what you couldn't control. A softening of the voice inside you that kept replaying what went wrong. A pause in the endless loop of what-ifs and if-onlys. And in that pause, you feel it. Peace. Not the kind that feels exciting or loud, but the kind that feels like still water. Like sitting in the shade after years under a burning sun, like hearing silence and not needing to fill it. You don't need answers. You don't need closure. You don't even need to know what comes next. You just are. And that's enough. Lao Tzu wrote, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." That's what this is, the gentle unraveling of who you thought you needed to be in order to become who you actually are. The moment you let go, your mind stops running. Thoughts come, but they no longer scream. They pass like clouds in a sky you no longer try to control. You don't grip them, you don't chase them. You watch, you breathe, and you let them move. This is freedom. Not in escape, but in surrender. You realize that pain doesn't dissolve the moment you let go, but the suffering, the resistance, the fighting, the tension begins to melt, and what's left is something softer, something more alive. There's no longer a need to revisit the story every night before you sleep. No more analyzing the words they said. No more replaying that moment, trying to change it in your mind, because now you accept that it happened, and also that it's over. Even your sleep changes. It becomes deeper, slower. Your dreams shift. You no longer wake up with that heaviness in your chest. You no longer live in anticipation of a pain that has already passed. Letting go isn't about losing something. It's about remembering that your life didn't end where your heart broke. There's something profoundly sacred about learning how to rest inside your own skin, to sit with yourself and feel okay, not ecstatic, not high, just okay. Thich Nhat Hanh said, "To let go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. And freedom doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence, a kind of silence that says, you are safe now. You don't have to hold it anymore. You realize you don't need to be rescued. You don't need to be fixed. You just needed space to be, to breathe, to feel without judgment, to cry without shame, to release without explanation. And maybe, for the first time in a long while, you smile. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are still here, and you finally feel light again. Not empty, but light. And that's when you know you've let go. What you become. There is a strange stillness after the storm. You expect something dramatic, a sign, a burst of joy, some kind of proof that you've let go. But instead, it feels like standing alone in a quiet room, and you are okay with that, not because you've forgotten, but because you've made peace. You no longer feel the ache pressing on your chest every time you think of them. You no longer need to relive the past to make sense of your present. You no longer grip your memories so tightly that they bleed. Now, you hold them gently, with reverence, with softness. You understand now. You never had to throw them away. You only had to stop letting them define your worth, your future, your identity. They are part of your story, but they are not the end of it. And so, you stand in this quiet space, this clearing after grief, and you look around. What remains? You do. You remain. The version of you who has survived heartbreak, uncertainty, and change. The version of you who knows how to sit in stillness without needing to fill the silence. The version of you who now understands that healing doesn't mean returning to who you were. It means becoming someone new. Khalil Gibran wrote, "Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding." And now that the shell is broken, you see things more clearly, you feel more deeply, you live more gently. There is no rush anymore. The world is still fast, still noisy, still demanding, but inside you, there is calm. You wake up with soft eyes. You move through your day with less fear. You stop chasing. You stop apologizing for your softness. You stop needing life to be anything other than what it is. And slowly, a new life begins to take shape. Not because everything around you has changed, but because you have. You begin to notice beauty in ordinary things again. The way sunlight filters through your window, the quiet sip of morning tea, the laughter of a stranger across the street. These moments don't rush past you anymore. You receive them. You let them land. You trust again, not blindly, but bravely. You start to say yes to things, not out of obligation, but out of curiosity. You take walks without a destination. You reach out, not for rescue, but for connection. You start creating art, ideas, movement, not to prove anything, but simply because you can. And maybe you even begin to love again, not as a replacement, not as a distraction, but as a new expression of who you've become. This is what remains after letting go, a heart that has known deep pain, but chooses to open anyway. A soul that has walked through fire and still believes in softness. A life that no longer needs to be controlled, only lived. You no longer look back with longing. You look back with gratitude. Because what once broke you, taught you, what once held you down, humbled you, what once felt like the end, prepared you for a beginning. And now you're here, present, alive, rooted in who you are, not who you lost, rooted in possibility, not the past. Mary Oliver asked, "Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?" That question no longer scares you, it excites you, because now you know you don't have to carry it all. You don't have to fix what broke. You don't have to become who you used to be. You only have to be here, fully, freely, openly. This is the gift of letting go, not just the release of pain, but the return to presence, to wonder, to yourself. You are not empty. You are full of space. Space to feel, to breathe, to rebuild, to begin again. And now, you do. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more deep content. We cover philosophies of life,